Thanks for joining me. Today we are talking about Randy Crane on World Spina Bifida Day. And he told me, I may not do it like everybody else, but I still do it my way. Why, hello there. My name is TJ Shimeld. I'm the co-founder and president of VanishingWheelchair.org. Here today to share with you the story of one of our founders, Randy Crane. I'm recording today in my magic studio, wearing my magic, because the Vanishing Wheelchair is about looking at things differently. Magic can really fool our eye. And we use magic as a metaphor with the Vanishing Wheelchair to really show that, you can't judge a book by its cover. As they say, that what's on the outside isn't always what's on the inside. And that lesson was taught to me by a dear friend of mine, Randy Crane. Fortunately, he's no longer with us, but he did find in his heart and in the last year of his life helping found the Vanishing Wheelchair. Randy was a good friend of Ricky Boone, and they met each other in a school in Asheville, North Carolina. It was specifically set up for people with disabilities. And Randy Crane was born with spina bifida. He would get around on crutches. And we were, at one point in time, working with him to write his story. And he absolutely loved teaching children about disability was his big thing. He would go into different schools and talk with them and inspire them, really. And he was one of those people that had always said that when he was out and about, with his crutches, his legs would come down, and he'd almost be walking like on his ankles. His feet would just kind of flail out as he went, and, children would look at him funny a lot of times. And a lot of times he noticed that, parents would kind of stop their children and say, "No, stop, don't look at him, don't." And he used to stop and talk to the parent and say, "No, don't, that's okay. They have questions. Let them talk. Let them ask their questions and I can answer it." And he said that, when you stop a child from staring, that is giving an impression to that child that this is not good. This is not a good person. You don't want to interact with that person. You want to stay away. So he always encouraged children to ask questions. And he used to say, when you make a friend in a child, you have a friend for life. And Randy Crane used to speak and taught me that, we have two ways of looking at the world. We can look with our human eyes and see what's on the outside, or we can look with our hearts, our spiritual eyes, he used to call it, and see a person for who they are on the inside. And when I go around to different groups with the Vanishing Wheelchair, I work with children who are hospitalized locally here in Asheville. And a lot of times I like to show them this, and I'm going to share with you as well, when I talk about Randy Crane, is looking at these two arcs. And if you take a look at those arcs, and I'd always ask the child, which one looks bigger, the brown one or the white one? And they'd say the white. I'd say, great, watch. A little blow and look. Now, which one looks bigger? They'd say the brown. And watch again, which is bigger? The white. But actually, if you take a look, these two arcs are the exact same size. In fact, they are the exact same arc. And this is a gift that I would give to the children, and so they could share that with other people and share Randy's ideas, because our minds, our eyes fool us. Whichever one's on the bottom looks longer, even though they're the same size. So this is a great lesson for all of us, that, you know, what we see isn't always what we get. And I was taught that when I first walked into a magic shop in Asheville, Magic Central, and saw this guy here, our other founder, Ricky Boone, who was friends with Randy. And Randy used to come to Ricky's magic shop, and when, you know, Randy was feeling down or upset, he always knew that the magic he could get from Ricky. And as Randy said, you know, we could sit at the magic shop and see all these cars going by and not realize the friend that we were missing in stopping to see Ricky Boone. And when I first met Ricky, I had a judgment because he was in a wheelchair. And at the time that I met Randy, I met him by interviewing him for the book. Because he was a great friend of Ricky Boone. And Randy is actually the one who came up with the title. You know, we had other working titles, but, you know, he looked at me one day and said, you know, Ricky Boone is truly a giant. He's a 4-foot giant. Even though he's 4 feet tall, he has a giant personality and a giant ability to help. And he helped Randy when Randy would need it. And Randy in turn would help Ricky when Ricky needed it. And Ricky and I, that very day, that very moment, looked at each other and said, I think we're thinking the same thing. This is the name of the book, The 4-Foot Giant, thanks to Randy Crane. And Randy was also one that I loved. One of my favorite moments with Randy. He was a wonderful piano player. And at the Vanishing Wheelchair, we teach skills in the arts because Ricky and Randy found that they were able to survive in life and overcome their disability because they had something to live for. Ricky was passionate about performing magic. Randy loved to perform music, and he loved to share the inspiration with children and help them overcome their obstacles in life. So Randy, one day as I was working with him and writing his book, he wanted to take me somewhere. And we got in the car, and Randy was driving. And I tell you, it was one of the most scariest moments of my life, getting in the car with him, because again, with his disability, he didn't really have feeling kind of in his feet. Car seat was pushed all the way up, so he was right there at the wheel to be able to move his feet off and on the brake and the gas, and he drove. And he did wonderfully. I was like so amazed just at that. And he drove me to a house where his father used to work on this house for this woman who we met and talked to, an older woman at the time. And Randy said he used to come to this house with his father, would always be fixing up things on the house, and Randy would want to help. And his father one time, and as we pulled into the driveway, he said, there's the garage. He said, that garage there, my father was up there working on the roof one day. And I wanted to help. And Randy, in his crutches, went up to the ladder, and his father's up there on the roof with some other workers and friends. They were like, no, it's too dangerous. Stop. Randy's father stopped them and silenced them and said, no, let him come up if he wants. So Randy found a way up the ladder to help out his father fix the roof. And he told me, I may not do it like everybody else, but I still do it my way. Randy took me inside to meet this woman. Lovely lady, beautiful, beautiful house, this huge house. And we, she gave us a tour, talked about Randy and growing up and all of that. And we went into the music room. And this room was literally a cathedral. It was actually, she would loan it out to a local church to use for church services. And up on a little sort of stage area on the side was a piano. And Randy looked at that piano and looked at her, and he said, my whole life when I was a little kid, I always wanted to play that piano. And she said to him, well, go ahead. And so he got up and sat himself down, and he played the most beautiful music that he had written himself. And it was my great honor to be part of that moment with him, doing this thing that he had always wanted to do, but always was so shy as a child to ask. And a few months later, Randy used that song. I performed a piece of magic of an older bit of magic with rings that link together and unlink and all different forms. And I had struggled for a long time to find music that suited the routine. Well, Randy's music fit it. We performed once at the J. Everson Riddle Center in Morganton, North Carolina, that educates and houses people with disabilities. And we did a performance there, and Randy had a portable piano that he brought, and I performed the rings, and it just fit so beautifully. We only did it the one time. Unfortunately, Randy did pass away from cancer. They found it too late. And he, we never recorded that music together. He never wrote it down. It was all up here. And so that music unfortunately passed with him. But I feel so fortunate to have been in that moment, to see him play that, and to be able to work with him on stage was such a blessing. And he has taught me so much. I think every time we do a show with the Vanishing Wheelchair, any of the shows we do, I always need to bring up Randy, because he did see, and he taught me how important it is to teach others, to answer others' questions, to have a child's friendship, and you have a friendship for life. Seeing differently, using those spiritual eyes to see people who they are, and see their full worth, and not be fooled like the magician does. Join us on the journey. Subscribe, like, and pass it along.